Over this fall and winter season, I've noticed that some of this garlic is that I've harvested is actually beginning to dry out, right? And so some of the cloves have desiccated to such a point that they are like a half or maybe even a third of their original size. And so I want to kind of talk about why this might be occurring and what steps we might be able to take to be able to help prevent this. So when it comes to garlic cloves drying out, right, usually we want to really prevent this, especially when they're drying out unintentionally on our part, especially if you are growing this garlic for seed or for market, for food purposes. Storage conditions is all about managing heat and humidity levels, right? We don't want it to get too hot. We want those garlic cloves to stay in more of a dormant state, and we also don't want the humidity to get too low, but we also don't want it to get too high either, right? If it gets too high, we might have issues with microorganisms, right? Especially if we don't have good air circulation. And then of course, if it gets too low, then the air is going to be more likely to pull moisture out from the garlic cloves, right? Further, drying them out and exacerbating the issue. So we want to make sure that we have these two aspects down pat, right? And so I did attach a link from UMass Amherst. They have some more specific recommendations depending on if you're going to save them for seed or if you are going to save them for edible purposes, what kinds of humidity and temperature levels you want to keep them at. There's also an important distinction that we want to make between soft neck varieties and hard neck varieties. I believe soft necks are usually grown more down south. Hard necks are more up here, more in northern climates, temperate. The soft necked varieties are actually tend to be more renowned for their longevity in shelf life. So if we want a storage garlic, those might be a better option, right? But then there are also some hard neck varieties that can keep for a relatively long time. So you really want to key in on the variety and understand what it's been bred for, like what is it really good at. Another aspect we want to make sure that we observe is harvesting, right? Especially the timing of the harvest, right? We don't want to harvest, obviously, the garlic too early, because in that last stage of growth is when the garlic bulbs are actually enlarging, right? Unless if we want to harvest it as green garlic, right, which is more similar to like green onions, and that has a totally different set of uses and stuff, right? But if we want the mature cloves for seed or eating purposes, then we're going to need to make sure that we are keeping the garlic in the ground for as long as possible, but not too long. So we don't want to harvest them too late either, especially once the cloves begin to split away from the stem and they become more challenging to harvest. That may throw off some of the biochemical things going on in those cloves. It may also have an opportunity to introduce more bacteria. You're introducing the possibility of multiple different factors. Some of the shells around the garlic clove, the chaff and stuff, some of those outer layers will biodegrade more, and then you may be left with a thinner skin on the cloves, which would hinder their ability to keep. So we want to make sure that we're harvesting the garlic at a good time, right? Right when those leaves are beginning to yellow from the bottom up. I believe the UMass Amherst uses like the 60% rule. When you see like 30% yellow, 60% green, that's usually a good time to harvest the garlic. And then when we are harvesting the garlic, we want to make sure we are doing that as carefully as possible, right? If we're using a pitchfork, we're putting the tines of the fork at least a good few inches away from the garlic plant, the base of the garlic plant, so that we are not digging into the cloves or anywhere near them where we might damage them, right? Because then that can introduce bacteria, can create cracks and things that can be places for moisture to escape, and then of course bacteria to get in. So we want to be able to harvest them, gently pull them up, separate them from the soil, and then when we are cleaning the garlic, right, we're taking some of those outer layers off and the dirt. We want to make sure that we're doing that as carefully as possible, right? Granted, nothing is ever perfect, but we want to make sure that we are introducing as few cuts and scrapes to the cloves themselves as possible, and we're not taking down too many layers, because the more layers you take down, the more chances there are for moisture to escape. And some garlic will have fewer layers than other garlics, right? So any cloves that are thin-skinned or especially like larger cloves tend to be more susceptible to this too. We want to make sure that we're using those, especially for food purposes first, right, before they go bad or before they dry out, right? So maybe we try to selectively grade some of the garlic when we are cleaning it, so that we can save the best garlic that we can for seed for planting right in that fall. Thank you so much for checking out this video on why garlic cloves may be drying out and how we may be able to take steps to prevent them. It can be disheartening to lose some plantable garlic, but some of these cloves, as long as they're not moldy or rotten or anything like that, I've been able to still enjoy them as a food, right? They are milder in their garlicky effect, a lot milder, right? I've even eaten the cloves straight like that when they're desiccated, and they have a nice caramelized gentle flavor, so it's actually kind of good. And so hopefully now moving forward I can be able to save cloves over the late summer and fall season a little bit more confidently, that I will have a good number of cloves to be able to plant the next season, right, in that fall. So thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in a future video. Take care.